Hey folks, and welcome to the Pipnotic Symposium for the 8th of June 2020. Today we're going to run through a ton of pairs. Then we're going to do all of the major crosses and some exotics. And we'll start with the Australian dollar, American dollar. So looking on the weekly chart, and you can see that this is very, very low indeed. We've reached the beginning of this buy zone here, which is actually this area of demand. We tore through it, and when this happens, we've advertised some incredibly low prices and obviously attracted a lot of buying, and you can see that this has happened very clearly here. This is also a result of the corona situation going on, where stock prices went through the floor, and this is obviously a really good time to purchase Australian assets at these very, very low discount prices, which is what has happened. So we can see a lot of money moving to Australia. Okay, and so if we have a look at this from the macro perspective, we've poked into demand, we've raced through the buy zone, and we're reaching these very low. This is probably 6-month demand, which I can't see on this time frame, but we poked into that. Okay, so this nice release point here, and this is interesting here because we had this area just here, which was tested a few times, once, twice. Price accumulated below price, and then we left like a rocket ship. So we're essentially returning to the origin, the white candles just before the consumption of that area of demand. Okay, so price went through it a little bit, then we went north. So beautiful trade there. So this is telling us as well that we want to be really careful selling, because we do have an incredible influx of liquidity moving into Australian dollars. So we have a look on the weekly chart, and we do have a couple of areas that might look interesting, but this is kind of shorter term stuff. Because price is so low, and so we've obviously kind of kick-started the economy in Australia, and this is seeing this we can see by looking at a price chart. So we had this one here, so this is an area of supply. When price left here, we moved below all of the lows historically to the left at this price point. The slingshot was pulled back, then we left. Okay, so we do have the beginning of a sell zone. The sell zone was the high of this pullback here, and price got pretty close to it, and now we're sitting on it, kind of figuring out what to do. When price does this, rallies up to an area and sits on the area just below, and it kind of starts to accumulate below, that makes me very, very nervous to sell. So I shan't be selling because of this. And just looking at last week's trade, look at last week's candle, this is probably not just going to come crashing down. We might have like a mild pullback, maybe visible on the daily chart. Then price will potentially continue in the direction of where it's currently headed. So if we have a look on the daily chart, we can probably see some interesting areas. We have this nice area of demand here. This is interesting because this massive release here, this kind of happened at the point where this area of demand kind of accumulated the potential kind of like this sell. This was the beginning of the sell zone for this area here. Slingshot was pulled back, then we left. This sat on it and consumed it. And so looking at this, let me do this very quickly. So just looking at this here, you can see very clearly that price is potentially looking to go high. So I think this is a pretty interesting area to begin to entertain buying Australian dollars. I'm just going to put that in there because I just like that area. I think the price will potentially continue to move higher. Technically, we should obviously begin to move low. I like this area here, and so this might be an interesting area to begin to get out of the trade. This could be an interesting area to begin to short, which is very clear on the weekly chart. So if we go to the weekly chart, you can see that we do have this very attractive area just here. Okay, so just before, there it is. You can see it here. If I go like that, probably pop up on this chart as well. No, it's because we already have an order in, but you can see it very clearly here. This is the one here, how price kind of sat sideways for a while. We moved lower, and then price came down. Slingshot was pulled back, and then it left. Slingshot was pulled back. What does that mean? That means this one is no longer valid. Dotted box, it means sell higher. So we could sell. We would sell here. We could buy lower, okay, which is where we saw that entry placed just there. So we have a really nice area of supply here. This one we can't sell now because we are at that area, but we could have a look at this one here. Okay, and the price is not quite there yet. So I think buying below price is just more interesting for the time being. So let's have a look at that American dollar, Swiss franc. And we were buyers of this kind of down here. That played out very nicely. We moved to the opposing side of the market. Now we're just messing around. We're not really doing anything interesting. If we look at this, I mean, there's no clarity as to what we're going to do. What I do like is I really like this one here, but this is really, really far away. This is years away, so I shan't entertain anything there. So if we go to the weekly chart and have a look, yeah, we're just stuck. And what happens when you're stuck? Well, that means that you're selling high and you're buying low. So we have this area just up here, just above price. Let me move this one here. You can see it very clearly here. This is just a really nice release point. But zooming out on this, I mean, this is below kind of these highs here. And if you kind of mark, we do an average of the highs, and we're pretty close to this. So, I mean, you could sell here, but you just have to be a little bit careful. Alternatively, you could be looking to buy lower. But for me, the American dollar Swiss franc is not terribly attractive because it's kind of stuck sideways. That doesn't mean you can't do something, but you want to be doing whatever it is that you're looking to do at the extremes. And we do have this area of supply here. We do have this area here, which didn't really accomplish anything. It's just reacting at this demand here, and so there's nothing to do. There's no reason to sell until much higher. So going to the weekly chart, I think we could look to maybe do something up there. Just flick that on and maybe have like a brief trade kind of down. Okay, so we might manage to move down from this area there, but there's nothing to do in the middle. Trading in the middle is simply too dangerous, too risky, and so I wouldn't do anything until we reach these nice areas, these nice buy and sell zones at the extreme. We have this very nice area, how price raced up to this area, then we left very quickly. So this is the beginning of the sell zone for this area of supply. The reason this area of supply is not perfect is because that we've already been back to that price area historically, so price could easily kind of do that. Okay, move through that area there. But I'll leave it in there and we'll watch it and see what happens. So going to the British pound American dollar, starting on the monthly chart, we're terribly low. We've caused this trend line to break, so market structure has failed. The origin of the area that caused market structure to fail is this one here. Price tore through it. We're revisiting these lows, and now price is, man, I don't really have anything. My broker has nothing for me to base any more profound decisions on, and so I have to kind of look at what I have here. And so you can see we're very low. We had enormous rejection, so gut feeling is telling me that the pound may drift higher. So if we have a look on the weekly chart and see what we have. We have market structure is wriggling north. We have a low, high, low, high. So we have price wriggling higher, seeking liquidity, so bearish liquidity. And so I'm thinking that we may see some shorter term wriggles north for this. So if we have a look if there's anything interesting, yeah, we do have this little this price point here. You can see it a little clearer here. Yeah, I like how price tested this area, moved up into it, we moved sideways, and then we tore north. And this is an area because we had this. It was tested once, twice, price sat on it. Okay, and then this is the one that removed it. This one was tested. This one here removed this one. And so what I might do is say, okay, well, let's have a shot at that area there. So I think that stop is maybe a little bit small. So I'm going to adjust the stop. Just going to put that on 3. Okay, I'm just going to like flick that on. That's a little bit better. It gives us a little bit more room. So I think that could be an interesting area. Also, when price left here, what did? We went above this high and this high, but we are reacting a resistance. So let's see. We also do have this just here. This is a nice spot here, and so we'd want to be out of the trade by around here. So we'll have to wait and see what happens on that one. That's what we have there for the time being. Let's have a look at the American dollar Japanese yen. So we need to see the big picture, so we'll go to the monthly chart. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to do in here. We've reacted to this demand, which is great. So monthly demand. So the buy zone is here. It was here. Price poked into. We poked into the low of this candle. So on a smaller time frame, the slingshot was pulled back to here, and this is where we left from. Let's have a look on the weekly and see if we can find that. Zooming out, here it is. We had the slingshot, so we had sideways price movement. Price went up, slingshot was pulled back, and then we flew north, taking out this supply, and this here, this small continuation pattern, which essentially removed this. Okay, so there's strength here. Price poked into it. Now we're kind of figuring out what we want to do currently. So we could look to wriggle north from here, and looking on this time frame, this looks like an interesting pattern. Looking at the naked charts, yeah, I mean, I'd be looking. Yeah, I'd be a little bit careful about buying American dollars for the time being. So, I mean, politically, there's a lot of unrest in the United States at the moment, a lot of rioting. And so you just have to be a little bit careful because things can get very volatile in such a situation. But what we do have is we do have this pretty interesting pattern here. We had this area here. This is micro stuff here where we had this area of supply caused price to trade below these lows. You see we had two tests here. So this is probably daily or 4-hour demand in here. Tested, consumed by this, and this one removed it. So this is an area here that could be interesting, but I'm not going to trade. I'm just going to put an alert at that area, and then we'll see what happens once price gets there. Price also managed to move above this high here, which is an interesting high on the smaller time frames. Okay, good. We're going to race through these really quickly. We have a lot to cover. The euro US dollar. I was trying to sell this a little bit last week. I burnt my fingers trying to do some shorter term stuff, which often happens when I fiddle on the shorter time frames. But looking at this on the big time frame, where are we? We're really low. We poked in this monthly demand. Price went to that area to almost to the pip, maybe 5 pips into it, 10 pips into it, and we're flying north. And so there's no supply here until higher. So what does that mean? That means we want to be buyers. So looking for places to buy. What do we have? Yeah, well, we don't really. We have this. We had this area here. Tested once, twice, 3 times. This is the area here that caused it to be removed. So this could be an interesting area for us to consider. The software says this one is interesting, and this is interesting here because price took out this one here, and this is where we had this. Okay, so this area removed it, the one just here. This is a significant area because price went flying down. We went below this low here. What else did we do? Well, we went really low, and from this area here, we went all the way down to the lowest point. Okay, so there's strength here. We can see that that strength being exhibited here by this test and huge rejection, and now price is moving higher. Okay, so if you go to the 4-hour chart just to have a little closer look inside. Yeah, so we have this one here. Not terribly pretty on this time frame, but what we could do is go a little bit deeper and look inside. See if we can find something that looks a little bit more attractive. Yeah, man, I prefer something down here or this one here. This is very nice because this is a turning point. Price moves sideways, we move north. Parent, child, release, slingshot, and then price really went like a rocket. So if we did that, you could see that we certainly would be looking down here. There's not a lot to do here, although on the bigger time frames we could maybe see price kind of feed back down into this kind of resistance becomes support scenario where we have something down at this area. And here we do have an accumulation candle just here, which I like, just there, just around here, buy zone. So that would be an interesting area for me. I'd be comfortable buying down there. So let's see, this is 64 pips. Let's see how big this one is. Maybe we can get it there. It's just my audio entry utility. Let me flick that on, then I'll go here and I'll move it down to here. Okay, so we have a nice big stop there. I like that area. So we'll have to sit patiently and wait for price to get there and see what happens. Okay, so essentially we want to find these areas where price has reversed by. We have this area here, it left again and again, but this one didn't. Okay, so that's telling us that we have huge liquidity, shift of liquidity at this price point. So we want to be getting into the buy zone there, and this is where we have an enormous stop, really nice and wide, and I'm quite comfortable with that. Good. American dollar, Canadian dollar. What's going on? Well, I'm still holding this short because I would like to move it down to around here. We got in on the daily chart, I think around, I don't remember. This is traded in the TransferWise account, so we got in around here somewhere. Okay, but this is if you look at this, I mean, the software found this area years ago. It was tested, price left, it went back to it again, found the sell zone, and price is releasing and moving lower. So we have a really keen interest on this moving down. This could be a result of many things. It could be the lockdown in the United States, for example, is slowly being loosened. So people are maybe going back to work, people are driving their cars, people are needing petrol. So the automotive industry, people driving, is requiring oil, and there was a lot of oil. There was a huge supply of oil, which caused oil prices to drop, the Canadian dollar to drop as a result. And this is slowly going to begin to turn around now as people return to work. And so the supply will be consumed and the demand for oil will start to go up. And this will obviously affect the strength of the Canadian dollar, which is what we can see here. Okay, so I'm expecting this to drift lower, and I really like this area down here. So this might be a really nice position trade to hold over a little while. But we'll have to wait and see. We do have a couple of micro areas down here as well, so we'll have to kind of sit tight and wait. But we do have a short bars. We do have a daily area here that could be interesting, which is this one here. This is interesting because we had this area here. We had a slingshot just here. You can see price went up, slingshot was pulled back, and we went racing north and stopped at this monthly supply. And now we're turning around and we tore through that area. We tested the edge of it once, twice, three times. We went down, moved deep into it, and then this one tore through it. So we do have this one. I'm going to say let's give that one a shot because of the reasons we discussed, and I just think fundamentally and technically this is an interesting area for us. So I'll put that in there. We'll move on to something else. So this is the Euro Swiss franc. We talked about this earlier on. We bought down at the lows here. We were already out of this trade. We did like a shorter term trade here, but the Swiss National Bank intervened, and you can see what has happened as a result. The Swiss National Bank does this a lot, and so you have to be careful trading the Euro Swiss franc and just the Swiss franc in general. But you can just see that this has really raced north, and so we have fundamentally we have things kind of moving lower in the Swiss franc, which is going to make cross currencies move north. But looking here for like really nice turning points. I mean, it's pretty messy to me. I don't see anything very attractive, so I'm just going to jump right over that one. I'm not interested in spending too much time on this chart. So let's have a look at the Aussie Japanese Yen. Going to the monthly chart. Again, we have huge flows moving into the Australia dollar. We have this buy zone here, which has been tested. This is the buy zone. Why? Well, because we formed a base, and this bar here closed above the previous candle, which was within the base. So this area of demand, it closed above the high of that candle. Okay, the slingshot was pulled back, price came to it, then we left. So what does that mean? Well, that means that we're trading above the highs of this slingshot. Supply moved below this low. Slingshot was pulled back, we left, poked into opposing demand, and now we're going north. So what does that mean? Well, that means that we're probably going to wriggle higher for a little while. So let's have a look, see if we can find some interesting demand. There's nothing really here. We do have this area of supply. When price left here, we traded below these lows here, which is significant. We rallied, accumulated. We have a parent-child relationship in here. And so something in here is probably telling us that we're going to have some big flows moving away from there. Also, we do have market structure that has failed, and so on the daily, maybe there's something that could be setting up for us. We have this one here. Okay, we have price tested this price area here and here and here, so let's just mark that off. Okay, tested. We need that as a reference point. Price removed it. I'm just going to get this quick, and so this is the one that did it. We also gapped down, which is huge. Okay, so now it's been tested. We moved into it. We formed a child, another child, and then we went north. So we do have this one, which is just above price. Okay, just above the area. So what we could do, let's see what this says. 2 times. I mean, if we have a really big stop like this, then we can certainly give that a shot. Then we can also even have price return back to resistance, become support scenario should price return to the highs of this area here. So we're going to put that on and see what happens. I'd probably be more comfortable doing that right there. You go to the bar chart, you can see that this just lines up nicely with these daily closes just on the line. This one here, it's kind of just above it. You can see kind of just here, you know what I mean, between these two. So I think that's a pretty interesting area. So I'll leave that on there. Then we'll move on to another one, the Euro British Pound. What do we have here? Monthly, what's going on? Oh, we're stuck. We're reacting to this demand. It's been tested quite a few times. We have a very clear interest at capping price at these highs. I don't know what's up there because I can't see left. There's nothing there. We do have Brexit uncertainty. Then again, we also have Euro uncertainty because of all of these collective economies slowly slipping into recession. And so this is kind of a two-way uncertainty. And so in a situation like this, we want to be buying extremely low and we want to be selling extremely high. Okay, so we want to be looking for turning points. And right now, looking at this on the weekly, I mean, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. I wouldn't buy here because this has done nothing. I wouldn't buy here because price has already been down there. So maybe at least at the lows of this, you can probably see it here. Yeah, this is what it's looking like here. But I mean, it doesn't really tickle my fancy. I'm not interested in this, so I shan't do anything. So I'm just going to jump over this one, go back to the monthly, have a look at the Euro Yen. What's going on with the Euro Yen? Well, the Euro Yen is really moving north. You can see we entered this buy zone here. The buy zone was right there. Price went to it, and now we're left. Okay, what does that mean? That means that we have humongous weekly flows moving into the euro and out of the Japanese yen. So we also have market structure failure. So we want to find a nice little daily demand at these areas where this stuff has occurred. Okay, so let's have a look. Let's do this. Let's do the legwork. So we had this here, just tested twice. Now it's gone. The origin of the move that did it is here. This is the origin of it. Sell zone, tested, went back to the child. This one went into the parent. Okay, slingshot was pulled back, then we rallied, accumulated and rallied. So the departure of the area, so the demand consuming this is actually this accumulation candle here, right there. So I'm going to plop that in there. I'm going to go back to here. Well, that's a little wide, so I'm going to say, okay, give us 2, like that. That's good enough. Give it like a nice big. When it's in there, then I'm going to move this lower, and I want to be below this swing here, and I want to have my target really far high because we do have this area. Ooh, yeah, this is a nice area of demand. Stunning. Tested, removed. This is a good exercise. Remarkable demand. This is stunning. Tested. This one's gone. What area did it? This one did. Here. Tested. Okay, so price is probably going to go to this area here and kind of move off it. So if you were going to sell, you wouldn't want to do it now Also, when you have a weekly candle looking like that, then you have to have enormous, as they say in Danish, klunger to be selling at this price point. So you have to be very careful, okay? And you can see that this is a huge period of distribution. Price left, we're returning to that, but price has already been back to this area before a couple of times. The only area that's looking fresh is something up here. So I'd be looking to sell here somewhere, but I would not be looking to sell lower. Okay, so I think that this might be a very interesting area. Okay, just remove that extra order. So we do have that here. And higher, you know what, I'm just going to remove this. I'm going to see. So we do have this area up there. You can see this is a pretty interesting area because when price moved below this low, and notice as well, we had this area of demand tested. This one went through it, but did it close below it? It did not close below it. It came all the way back, didn't it? And it closed at it, just in the middle of it. So there's simply not enough strength in this area to remove this. And so the real strength, the slingshot, had to go all the way back up to the highs here to remove this one here, okay, to force price to close below this. This one didn't do it. That's why price managed to move deeper into it. So the beginning of the sell zone is here. Okay, so we do not want to be selling at a price any cheaper than this. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit like that. I'm going to whack on the line chart because I like this. It just gives a lot of clarity. And you can see very clearly we had a test. So we have something in here that looks pretty interesting. So I'm going to flick this on. I want to have a look at it. And this is what it looks like on this time frame. So this could be a very interesting area for us to entertain a shorter position for that reason, okay? So what I would do here is I would look at the candle to the left, which is this one, and I would kind of find the accumulation immediately before it, and I'd do something like that because I want to get higher. I mean, I wouldn't want to sell here. I would want to save those 50 pips and try and get a better price. Okay, so I think this just looks like a slightly better area. And also notice that we have this area here. Okay, price left, we poked into it, we sat on there, we distributed for a few weeks, a month and a half, and then we left. And price came back, and then we really left the station. So we have something up here. We're going to likely see a reaction up here, but I wouldn't be selling anywhere below that. But I'm going to wait for price to get up here. I'm going to put an alarm, trade alarm, and then I'll wait and see what happens there. But what I will look to do, excuse me, is to buy that area there. So I'm going to plop this on. That'll open that there, and I'm going to move this down here to my accumulation, and I'm going to wait and see if price manages to come all the way back here, and then we have that push higher to the opposing area of supply, which may see a reaction. Okay, moving on to the EuroCAD. Let's go on the EuroCAD. Oh, this looks pretty messy, doesn't it? We have sell zones up here. We have a lot of selling here. You can also see that we had the sell zone there. Price went deeper. Price did not manage to move any deeper than that. And now we have this one here, the buy zone. Price went, it was here. We went to it, went a little bit deeper. But now what's happening? Well, now, yeah, we don't really know. And so what could happen is price manages to feed into this area here. Let's have a look on the weekly chart and see. I like this one here. This is very nice. This is a very nice area. So I think on the monthly chart, let's have a look here. The order entry. Yeah, that could be an interesting. I'm just going to pop that in there for the time being. Then we can modify it here. Let's go to the weekly chart and see where that is. That's interesting because we have the release, this amazing area. Price went north, price came down, buy zone, a little bit deeper, and then we left. So if we got a reaction like this at this area, we're probably going to get a pretty good reaction at this area here, okay, because price has not yet poked into that area. So I'm going to leave that in there. Just going to make sure these are not expiring. Good. So we do have this. I like that very much. So I'm going to leave that there for the time being. Now we're going to jump to the Euro Australian dollar. Wow, so we had tremendous selling. Let's have a look. Let's mark off the highs. So we had this candle here. This is the one that left. We had this one here, which is kind of, this is a micro supply up in here, but price came all the way down up to this area here. This is one that closed outside of the range of the previous candles. We went really deeply into it and then we left. So I mean, we went really high. This is a really, really high price for the euro Australian dollar, and now we left. We really left. And so there's no demand anywhere in here. There's nothing to do here until we get much higher, much lower. So we have a look at this. I mean, it's not a very pretty picture at all. If we just take this for a second and start looking, I mean, look at all these wicks up, 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 up. This is removing, this is consuming liquidity. So this is selling. This is price rallying, advertising high prices, selling, advertising high prices, selling. So we've already onboarded a lot of sellers in this leg down here, and so price went to this one here. This is where we had supply. It's been tested. The buy zone has moved higher. Sorry, the sell zone moved from here to here. It's moved from here to here, here to here, and now price went all the way up. It tore through all of this stuff and it went back up to this area here. Now we're moving away. So looking at this, I mean, price could easily move through all of this, and the only place where we actually have a very clear buy zone is here. So we have something on the weekly chart, I'm guessing, around here. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so first let's analyze this stuff. I mean, look at this sideways price movement, trading, gone. There's nothing in here. This has been tested once, twice. This is like levels testing levels, so there's nothing to do there. We have this one down here, but price has already been to this price point here. So scrolling left, here it is. You can see it right here. This is where we have that area right there. Let me remove this. Let's have a look. Okay, so we have this one here. Price tried to come down. We tried again, and we failed. Okay, so below this low here is an attractive price. And so for the time being, there's nothing to do but sell until we get down to roughly this, the 13600 area. So knowing that, we can go to the smaller time frames and try and find some nice daily supply that we could sell at. Okay, so if we have a look what we have here, this is interesting, but it's not that interesting because we could say, okay, well, I'm just going to put this on. We could sell there, but price has already been here. It's already been, all these areas have been tested. Okay, so I would want to sell higher, a lot higher. And so if we have a look on the 4-hour chart, so let me do that on my supply and demand chart. Yeah, there's nothing really to do here. The only one that looks remotely interesting, and you have to consider here which one is the one responsible for doing damage to the structure of price. Let's try and find one. So we had this. I need to see more. Let me zoom out all the way. So we had highs. Price went through the release from this point here. Oops, I think I just saw it right here. This is where it came from. Let's just mark that off. Tested, went through it. There's a lot of sideways movement here. And there's nothing really good here, but let's assume that this is the one that did it. This one did it. This one's gone. This one removed it. Testing. I mean, nothing has happened. This one, it held here, it held here, it held here. Price went through it, but it returned and traded above this area here. So there's no strong supply up at this area here. And then price went down, and we poked into it from this price point here. Okay, and so looking at this, I mean, there's nothing here to stop price. The only one that looks remotely interesting is this. Okay, so this one up here. Okay, yeah, but looking at this, I mean, this is not terribly interesting for me. It doesn't look beautiful. This would not be a buy or sell zone pinup, but this is the closest thing to it on this chart. I just like the way you see these buy zones testing. This one just punched the face this demand here, just punched it, you know what I mean? Boom, like one of those Mike Tyson knockouts there. It happened from here. So it came from here. So this would be the only interesting area to consider. This is a mess. This is a lot of like testing, whatever. So let's go back here. We'll take this one and we'll slide it up. This is roughly where our area is. Okay, so that might be an interesting area. Have to be pretty patient. It's pretty far away from price, but that's what we have, in my opinion, for the time being. And lower, we have this one down here, but that's really far away. So maybe price will wriggle up to here within the next couple of weeks. We'll have to wait and see, but that's very far away from price, so we might as well just kind of remove that and come back later. The pound Swiss franc, what's going on here? We're actually in this one now, just testing this area. How price formed this area. Okay, we had this area here, price went up to it. This area here, price went north, we came back down into it. We moved from this area through this area and traded above it, moved to opposing supply. This one came back to it, sat on it, then just punched it out and cut through it. The sell zone is here. This is the area there, and so we're in there with a little position in anticipation that this moves away. So if we go, there's one. Yes, we'll leave it at that for the time being and see what happens. So that we have there on the pound Japanese yen. What's going on? Well, here we have, so we have buy zone. Okay, price left here. Price left here, we moved below these lows here, and this one here. Price tested it, we moved up, accumulated, punched through it. So this one is gone, this one is in play. This was tested once, twice, 3 times, and now we seem to have attracted some buyers for the time being. So looking at the weekly chart, well, maybe we're going to start to wriggle north. We look at this one here. We also had this one here, which pushed price below this low, and this was an important low. Okay, this is like price digging a little bit deeper, returning to this child, which tested the parent, which you can see below. Price punched through. We certainly had currency strength divergence at this price point here. Then price left, price moved back, and then we rallied. So now we actually have market structure moving higher, which looks like this. Okay, something like that. On the daily chart, maybe there's something that we could entertain. You can see here that we have this here, tested. What area removed it? This one did right here. So you could entertain the notion of doing something down here, but it's not very clear, is it? So you want to find those really sharp cutaway points. And you can see that we have something here. We had this. Tested. This one kind of sat on it and then removed it. So if I was to turn this on, let's see where that would put it on the 4-hour chart. It'd put it right there, wouldn't it? You can see that we had resistance, price rallied, accumulated, and then left. So this might be an interesting place for us. Let's go to the daily and have a look at the line chart. This is just showing us where we had where we had commitment. Yeah, I mean, price is kind of hovering around this area here, isn't it? You can see it looks pretty nice around that area. So I think that might be an interesting area just around there. And this is where we had a super nice, strong, forceful push away. So we'll leave that there for the time being and see what happens. That's not too far away. This is bleeding edge, so we could certainly have a price run down to that area. Swiss franc Japanese yen, not really something I look a whole lot at, but let's have a look nonetheless. So what do we have here? We have this area of supply. This is interesting because when price left here, we removed this. You can see this dotted box here. This shows us where we had demand, and it was taken out. So you want to find the white candles above that removed it, and here we have them. Price went through it, slingshot was pulled back, we revisited it a few times, but then we started to wriggle north. But now it looks like that we have, that we're revisiting this. Here we have demand. Just here, price tested the child, which is this right here. Did we get there? Here we got pretty close to it. Now price is wriggling higher from here. So there's not a lot of imbalance here. We're just sideways. So I'd be looking to buy the 105.50 area and selling above the highs of this. So let's see where. Yeah, it doesn't really like anything here. Let's have a look on the weekly chart. So we have anything that lines up on that time frame. No, I mean there's nothing really to do here. There's nothing really to do here. We do have this, which is what this is trying to tell us. We had this area here. But this is not. Oh, sorry, that doesn't work. We had this. Our price came down, slingshot, went north. We moved above this. We came back down, sat on it, went through it. Slingshot was pulled back, and then we left. And so it's telling us that actually we have something in here. Maybe we do have something in there, but it's not super stunning. So I'm just not going to do anything. Next. What's going on here? Well, we closed the gap. We spoke about this. So this is our weekly. Let me remove all of these objects. So now we're cutting through all of these. We're returning to this area, which is very nice. And this is nice because look at all, we have something in here. We can see it on the weekly, I'm sure. And here it is. We have this really nice one here. Tested, removed the area that did it. There's this one here, which has been tested many times. Tested a bunch of times and now it's gone. What area removed it? This one right here. So we got something right in here. This is a whole area. It's a big one. We'll go to the weekly chart and have a look. See if we can pinpoint that area. Oh, we're on the weekly chart. Let's go to the daily chart then and then have a look. And then, oh, that's not very handsome. If you look at this, it's just really messy. Okay, we had kind of price trying to move through there. We had a deep push and then rejection. The area that did it, I mean, there's something in here. Just there. That might be the only, that's not really cooperating. I'm just going to remove it. So let's have a look there. There's something in there. Okay, so let's have a look on the 4 hour for clarity. So I need to put a box around this so I can see. So the 4 hour. Okay, here you can see it clearer. And it's right here. Right there. This is a one that did it all. This is mess. You can't trade here. This is not a good price. You want to find the low of this mess, and this is probably where price is going to come back to, and this is at the 87.62 area. I like that very much. So that could be an interesting area. So what we could do, we could go like that, flick this on, and then drop this down here, which would look pretty nice. I think we have a really nice gap. Hey, that looks pretty interesting. Oh, it's a pretty tight stop. We'll have to, we'll wait and see. I like the fact that you see the wicks above, rejection, wicks above, rejection, wick, rejection, rally, accumulation, and then knockout. It all left from here. Okay. I don't like you at all. That's just a mistake. I think I've got 2 positions on here. Let's have a look. How many positions? 1. Okay. So that's what we have there. I like this one much better. So what I might actually do is maybe give it more space. Just going to remove this. Sorry, my bad. I'm not thinking. Because I have to be on the daily chart because it's a daily area just there. Right, and then I can pop this down right there, and that'll make sense now for us here. Okay, so that gets us a little bit lower. Okay, so I like that one. So where would the target go? Well, let's find an opposing area. I mean, how far has price gotten since then? Well, it's gotten really far, hasn't it? It's gotten all the way up here, so we could probably move this. Just put it up here somewhere. So we'll leave that and see what happens. That's what we have there. Aussie, Kiwi. What's going on? Weekly chart. Price is testing. Oh man, look at that. It's testing this area of supply. Sometimes you wonder, why didn't I see that? I mean, the software's been printing this rectangle for us for a year. Actually, I'll tell you how long it's been on there. For a year and a half. And sometimes you still miss these trades. It's crazy. So we've got that right there. Okay, it's been tested. So now price is actually, we got lower lows, we have lower highs, and we are actually reacting at somewhere where we have a trend line from here connecting this high and this high here. We're getting pretty close to that, so we could look to sell at a point on the weekly or the daily that lines up nicely with that area. Actually, let me go back here and mark this off just so we know where it is. There. So it's there. Good. So we go like that, then we go look like that, and this is where we currently are. And so we might want to have a little look higher on the smaller time frame, see if there's something that's looking interesting to us. So this is a mess here, and so I would be keen on selling above this. And on the weekly we actually have something. So if I said go, then I think it would pop it in. It's looking to buy. No, thank you. So I'm going to go like that. Let's have a look on the monthly. And then this is essentially where we want to do. This is where we want to transact. So I'm going to go like this. We can plop that in. Then we can go here and go down to the smaller time frame on the weekly, and then drop it down to where we like. And then we just plop it down. We'll drag it down somewhere here, and then we have to adjust on the weekly chart, and it's here, just here. So then you can ask yourself the question, well, has price been back to this price point before? And it has. It's been here, and it's been here, and here. And so the only place where price is coming down from above is above this. And so it's actually pretty close to where it said, actually, this is a better price. And so this is probably a risky spot to do business. But this is a better spot. Because that's so far away from price, I won't bother. I'll just put one of these in, and then be done with it, and come back later.